goes up there to the commission. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. As a reminder, the commissioner staff would like me to remind everybody that if you would like to make public comment during that portion of the meeting, there are sign-up sheets there by the entrance. So if you want to make any public comments, you need to go have a sign-up sheet made up and ready to go.
Hi, everyone. I know some people are hanging on to their speaker sheets. If you guys wouldn't mind passing them to the ends, and we'll just come by and grab them so that the commissioners are going to call everybody up by name one at a time to make public comment so that your names are on the record. That's all right. So if you guys are wanting to make public comment, write your name down, pass the sheet to the end, and if you don't have one, they're right back there. We'll get started soon. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? We'll try this. Ooh, we'll try it again. Well, good evening. My name is Commissioner Anna Tovar, and I just want to first thank you so much for coming out for our town hall meeting. This is actually my first in-person town hall meeting, and boy, does it feel good to see people in person. So we just got notice that Commissioner O'Connor is going to be here a bit late, and so when he comes in, we'll make sure to catch him up on all the great discussion that we've had. We are recording and live streaming as well too, so we'll be able to post that on our website. But first, we're going to take a little bit and have some housekeeping in order before we get started. So just to let you know, the public comment being held is part of a larger fossil fuel closure docket at the ACC. And this docket is subject to ex parte, which means that as commissioners, we can't discuss the merits of the case outside of an open meeting. So you're going to be able to ask questions and provide any type of comments. We just can't discuss our thoughts or our perspective on the issues tonight. So I just want to make that cleared so that you're not expecting the commissioners to give any type of response to it, because we are held to that ex parte subject in this docket. But again, You can ask questions, we just can't comment on them. You might ask, some specific questions that you want answered, and thankfully we have our consumer services from the ACC. They're here in the back as well too, and representatives from utilities are also here to answer any specific questions that, of course, the Commissioner O'Connor, and I can't answer as well too. We wanted to make it as open as possible because we know that there's quite a bit of topics that you may have in mind to bring up as a question or something that you might need answered. And so thankfully we have staff here from the ACC, and also utilities have staff members present as well too to take your questions and hopefully being able to give you that direct answer pretty quickly. So now that the housekeeping is pretty much done with, I just want to talk about a little bit about this town hall and how it'll go. So the commission is investigating how the commission and other entities can assist impacted communities in their transition following the planned plant closures. The commission is partially interested in transitional funding, repurposing of plants and facilities, and the benefits and impacts to ratepayers. Tonight, we want to hear from you, the community, and listen to what the closure means to you, your families, your neighbors, small businesses, you name it. We definitely want to hear from you, your ideas, your concerns, and we also want to consider them during our deliberations at the ACC. So the agenda this evening will be pretty smooth in regards to, filling out your town hall questionnaire. We're going to take them as we receive them as well too. So please, if you haven't filled out your town hall card, please do so. I know they're right at the entrance as you come in. And we'll have plenty of time for that as well too if you don't have it done right now. So with that, we have a Commissioner Kennedy that couldn't make it, but her policy advisor, Will Green, is here and traveled to make an opening statement on her behalf. So I'm going to have him come forward to the microphone and make a Commissioner Kennedy's statement for us. Thank you, Will.
Thank you, Commissioner Tovar. Oh boy. All right, yeah, my name is Will Green. I'm Commissioner Kennedy's policy advisor, as Commissioner Tovar said. Commissioner Kennedy sends her regrets. She had a family emergency. I'm going to be taking notes on every comment, and I'm glad to see a great turnout. I should have brought an extra notepad. But she also wanted me to share this message. So thank you for attending this town hall today. This meeting will help the commissioners and commission staff learn firsthand the experiences and hardships of communities facing coal plant closures. Replacing or mitigating the economic impact of these closures is a monumental task, but I am hopeful that throughout the course of the multiple town halls planned around the state, we will gain a better understanding of the ways that the Commission can help impacted communities, and we'll also see the consequences of inaction. I believe the Corporation Commission, as the primary decision-making body regarding the energy resource mix in the state, should also have a role as it relates to the human impact of its decisions. And that's remarks of Commissioner Kennedy. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Will. Thank you very much. I'll go ahead and start off with some community leaders that I've requested to come up and speak as well first. And first we'll start off with Kat Hansen, community member.
Thank you, Commissioner Tovar, for coming to Joseph City to visit with us tonight. It means a great deal. We hope you feel welcomed here in our little town. My name is Kat Hansen, and I will begin our meeting tonight with a brief history of Joseph City and why it is so very precious to us. They arrived on March 24th, 1876 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon while the wind was blowing. 45 men, 13 women, 4 boys, and 11 younger children playing a part in the expansion of the American West. The next day, March 25th, John Bushman got out his plow and wrote in his journal, "Plowed a little land, looked salty. 3 days later, work began on the first of many dams to supply water for the task of building an agricultural community. The genesis of their journey began in the spring of 1873, when Horton D. Haight led an expedition from Utah to explore the Little Colorado River in hopes of colonization in the region. Journal entries from the explorers paint a gloomy picture of what they found. From Haight himself, quote, "We see nothing better ahead of us. The hills are red and bare. We have had heavy winds nearly every day, at times enveloping us in storms of sand. With the poor feed and bad water, our animals are failing." Andrew Amundsen had a similar entry. Quote, "From the first we struck the Little Colorado, up 150 miles, it is the same thing all the way. No fit place for a human to dwell upon. The most desert-looking place that I ever saw. Amen." Mm-hmm. Another member of the party, Henry Holmes, also struck by the barren desert landscape, had an entirely different perspective, noting in his journal, quote, "I do not know whether it makes any difference whether the country is barren or fruitful, if the Lord has a work to do in it." On the heels of these reports, yet a second expedition was commissioned, led by James S. Brown, who set out in November 1875, with the permission to choose whom he wanted to go with him, and warned not to choose any babies. With his mandate of discovering how the colonization could happen, rather than citing the many reasons why it couldn't, they set out. He recorded in his diary, quote, "Where we still find the water increased and quality improved, so with the extent of land and all things considered, we thought we could recommend the country for settlement. And notwithstanding our desire to see the country higher up, still the whisperings of the Spirit said return, so we started back. By providence they came, and by providence they stayed. Of the 4 attempted colonies in the area, Joseph City is the only one that survived and thrived. In 2 years' time, a school district was petitioned for. Mail service was established, although very scarce delivery until the Atlantic and Pacific Railroad came through in 1881. The pioneers were industrious, and over the time, various industries began to grow in the area, including dairy farming, a tannery, lumbering, a poultry business, cattle ranching, and sheep herding. They sheared the sheep's wool and sent it as far east as Philadelphia. Joseph City farmers sold their produce to the growing neighboring towns and grew sorghum cane for the molasses mill. But nothing the Joseph City settlers did has so caught the imagination as the seemingly hopeless struggle to control the Little Colorado River. It has been called the 18 Years' War, with the first dam built in 1876 to finally having achieved success with the dam of 1894, having nearly built a dam every other year in between. The building of the dam has become a metaphor for the residents here. It is not easy to live here. It never was. We have mantras like, if you stick to Joe City when it's dry, it'll stick to you when it's wet. And early to bed, early to rise, work like hell and fertilize. I guess you can say we agree with Henry Holmes' observation that it makes no difference whether the country is barren or fruitful if the Lord has a work to do in it. What work is that, you might ask? The cattle, alfalfa, corn, and melons are only secondary to the real crop of Joseph City. We grow people. Our youth are instilled with our values of hard work, but first and foremost of self-reliance, love for God and their fellow men. They grow up participating in their families, doing service, playing every sport at school because if they didn't, there would be no teams. Throughout the nearly 150 years since that first March 24th, the young men and women from this town have literally touched the world. Countless of our youth have served church missions across the globe, served in foreign wars and in military service. There are Joseph City alumni throughout the state of Arizona and across this great nation that are engineers, doctors, nurses, lawyers, teachers, school administrators, entrepreneurs, and small business owners that have taken their Joseph City values with them and are a force for good wherever they go. A prominent faith leader visiting our area some years ago remarked that these small communities are seedbeds for future leaders. We may not grow any prominent leaders in the eyes of the world, and maybe we will, but we will continue to grow leaders of families and community that we all know are the true heart and backbone of this great nation to which we all pledge allegiance. Joe City born, Joe City bred. When we die, we'll be Joe City dead. From cradle to grave, we look out for each other. If you've ever attended a local charity auction or dinner fundraiser for someone who needs financial help, you've seen that those aren't just words. If you've ever attended a funeral burial at the Joseph City Cemetery, you've witnessed the shovels laid out near the flowers, ready for the beloved family members and friends of the deceased to throw the dirt back into the grave, dug just a few hours earlier by a Smith, Westover, or Bushman backhoe. To close my remarks, I want to honor our pioneer founders and heritage and ask that all those in the audience that are descended from our Joe City pioneers, if they could just stand for a minute. Thank you. You will not find a prouder people of their ancestors than the descendants of the Joseph City pioneers. They're as near and dear to us as our faith in God. We strive to keep what they gave their lives to. I often think of my great-great-great-grandfather, John McLaws, one of those first 45 men, who is famous in this town for many things, but foremost for his building of every casket needed until his death in 1935, for which he never charged a penny. His legacy of being, quote, one of the most valuable members of the Joseph City community is a standard I chase every day. Let me finish with a further reference to the Pioneer Dam, as it is a symbol of the spirit and culture of Joseph City. I'm quoting George S. Tanner, author of the book Colonization of the Little Colorado. Quote, compared with dams of note, it does not amount to much. Unless one knows the history of the farmers who struggled to make it a reality, it would hardly be worth leaving the highway to see. But to the sons and daughters of the pioneers, it is holy ground, dedicated to the Lord by some of his choicest men and women, and secured by toil and perseverance beyond the strictest call of duty. They are who we come from. Their mission is our mission, to create something of great value that will last and bless our posterity for generations to come. Thank you, Commissioner Tovar, for traveling here to meet with us tonight. Do you have any questions for me before I sit down?
Well, thank you, Kat. I am in awe of the history that you just shared right now. And what touches me is that the model that you had mentioned of how Joseph City grows people. They grow leaders of the community and leaders of family. And I think that is very much needed today, not only across America, but here in Arizona as well, too. So you're very much a hidden gem that everyone in Arizona needs to know about, and very blessed that you shared this story, and honored as well too. And thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have Steve Mills from Joseph City Unified School District Business Manager.
Thank you, Commissioner Tovar, and thank you also for giving me your time to be here tonight. It means a lot to the people here. We are a small rural school district, Joseph City Unified School District. We have about 450 students in our district, grades K through pre-K through 12. So just to give you some context, that's about 30 kids per grade level. Okay, so we're very small, but those kids get a lot of attention. Joseph City is a community that values education. You don't have to look very far to see the results. Our schools are highly rated and with amazing graduation rates and strong academic outcomes. We not only teach our kids academics, we teach them self-worth and self-reliance. We give them plenty of opportunities to grow socially and emotionally. Whether it's playing on a team, performing on this very stage, participating in state and national competitions, or even learning how to raise fish in a greenhouse that's just right across from this parking lot. And it's all done within the framework of the strong family values that are so important to the people here. Now, why is this relevant to you? Well, I'm sure you figured it out. In order to have stable, successful schools, you must have stable and sufficient funding. Discussion about how school finance works can get very complex very quickly. To break it down into its simplest form, most of the funding for Arizona schools is based on two things: the number of students and the assessed valuation of the property located within the district boundaries. Now, sometimes the numbers tell the story best, so let's look at a few of them. With the power plant closure, we're expecting a decrease in our school district's assessed valuation of about $100 million. Now that's down 83% from the current assessed valuation of $120 million. Our district levies a voter-approved tax to supplement our maintenance and operation needs. This year's levy raises $628,000. APS has historically paid about 80 to 90% of this levy. The biggest share of it is used to pay for additional teachers and staff. Now, why do we do this? Well, here's an example. What do you do when you have too many kids in the one and only second grade class? Okay? You hire another teacher. Your class sizes are now very small, which is great for learning, but our state funding doesn't pay for the extra teachers needed to man those small class sizes. That's where the supplemental levy fills the gap. Our kids shouldn't miss out on opportunities to take classes in the sciences, higher math, the arts, reading, remediation, and other specialized classes just because they live in a small rural town. This campus was built in the mid-70s. It's nearly 50 years old now. With the plant closure, our enrollment will likely decline and most of our tax base will dry up. Will we be able to maintain our facilities in a good and safe condition? It may be nearly impossible. Can't we just cut back some spending? Maybe some. But we're already very frugal here. We spend $4.64 per square foot on facility operations, while the state average is $6.84. So we're already spending 32% less than other schools. The state does not give us extra funding to maintain these great facilities built with Cholla tax dollars. Let's look ahead to when the plant closes. Suppose we lose 25% of our students because their parents' jobs have disappeared. Our tax base is will be a fraction of what it is now. Our tax rate would increase from $4 per $100 of assessed valuation to over $10. But it gets worse. The remaining property owners could never afford that kind of tax bill. So it's unlikely the voters would approve the full amount of a supplemental tax levy, if at all. State funding will not fill the gap. In short, when we lose the ability to pass voter-approved bonds and overrides, our buildings, our programs, and our kids will suffer. Life here will change forever. So what's the solution? Well, a group of very creative and passionate citizens of Joseph City have been working with energy and economic planning experts on a long-term plan for Joseph City. We're not asking you to solve our problems. What we are asking is that you consider approving upcoming proposals from the people of Joseph City for economic development assistance. We need development that will at least partially offset the 83% loss of assessed valuation. Our school district also needs some financial assistance to weather the transition and to help bridge that gap until our economic development plans come to fruition. And we need jobs. The decisions you make in the coming months and years affecting the Cholla Power Plant closure will have a profound impact on our children, our families, and our community. Please remember us and give us the tools to survive and thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Did you have any questions?
No questions, but thank you so much. I was a former kindergarten and first grade teacher in a very small school district as well too, and I know that I get it. And you're pinching pennies, and you're stretching the dollar to its maximum. But I applaud your leadership in regards to making sure that all students are deserving the best education possible. Thank you. We'll move now to Rusty Westover from Joseph City Utility District.
Commissioner Tovar, I appreciate you taking the time to come up here and visit us this evening. I was glad it was windy so you could see what Kat said is true. It's been like that. But we really appreciate you showing up. I also appreciate the people out here in the community for showing up and giving their support and engaging in this process. Like I said, my name is Rusty Westover, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Joseph City Water Improvement District Governing Board. And here's a little history on us. Prior to 1961, there was 3 different water companies here in Joseph City. So in 1961, they decided to take the 3 existing water companies, which was Smith Water System, Old Town Water System, and W.C. Shelley Water System, and combine them into one company that would be called the Joseph City Water System. A loan was acquired to make the purchase, and the first board meeting was held May 4th, 1961. Consisted of 6 board members. Joseph City Utilities is a community-owned water and wastewater system. It is overseen today by a 5-member board that are elected by the property owners of the district. In 1998, Joseph City Utilities was divided into 2 districts, the Domestic Water Improvement District and the Sanitary District, to be in accordance with the Arizona statute to manage the water supply and the collection of wastewaters for district residents. As of 2022, Joseph City Domestic Water Improvement is home to 2 wells, a main well and a backup well. Water stored in 2 500,000-gallon water storage tanks. They distribute to over 480 active residential, commercial, and agricultural connections. They also feed 48 fire hydrants that are used and maintained by the Joseph City Fire District. As a district, we represent the whole of the community of Joseph City. And on behalf of that, the community, I would like to thank APS for their partnership for the last 60 years. There's other companies that's come and gone, some still here, they're here, haven't necessarily made a partnership with the community like APS has. They've been a vital part of our community, if not directly, then indirectly. Matter of fact, everybody here in this room, thanks to APS, we wouldn't have this beautiful building we're in tonight, so we do appreciate that. I know APS still has some big decisions ahead. speaking for the entire board, I'd like to propose that we as a district request having the opportunity to assume the 14 deep water wells located south of the Little Colorado River that is now used to supply APS with the water needed. The Joseph City Water Improvement District, they would like to assume the wells as they are, keep the well filled as clean as possible. We feel we're best suited for this task because we do have the full representation of the community. I look at it too as a three-legged bar stool. We've got the interstate, we've got the major rail, and we have the aquifer and the water system. For any future businesses or industries that would like to come in, if you remove any one of them, the bar stool becomes useless and it falls over. That water is very vital to our future. And so again, I appreciate APS for what they've done and being a continued partner. And for anybody here from APS, representing APS, if you could take back to your company heads that our appreciation for them as a community. We still like your presence here, continue to be a partner, and to be honest, I don't know anybody that wants you to leave. So again, thank you, Commissioner, for your time, and drive safe.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there any of your board members that are here with you this evening?
There's probably a couple, but they're leaving me hanging up here by myself.
You did a great job. But if you're here from the board as well, too, if you want to just raise your hand and wave hi, that would be great if you are. Thank you. I just want to say thank you for your service as well, too, on the board. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rusty. Next, we'll go with Rusty Despain, Joseph City Fire District. Come on up, Chief. Thank you for wearing your blues as well, too, today.
Thank you, Commissioner, and welcome to Joseph City.
Thank you.
And feel privileged because I only wear this to usually funerals.
Well, I hope there's no funerals tonight.
Commissioner, first of all, I'd like to thank for you to come and hear our thoughts from our committees and our community, and thanks to the community for the support we have tonight. Also, I want to put a shout out to thanks to Brian Fields, who is under the weather, and I feel like none of this would really be possible unless Brian stepped up and started our community meetings and got some organization going. So I'd like to give Brian. Second, I would like to thank APS for all of the support and the relationship that they have been a part of each organization in Joseph City, especially the Joseph City Fire District, for their service, their contract for mutual aid, and the training and all that they have done for us as a district. Joseph City Fire District is very small. Our district only intakes part of the town. Pretty much it runs down Main Street and to about a mile on each side. Joseph City is unique in a lot of ways because we are kind of landlocked in either APS or Aztec Land and Cattle Company own most of our properties. The rest is all privates. We have a 23, or at this point, we have a 25-member fire district board that is all totally volunteered. The only exception is myself and the secretary who get a subsidization for our time and service as chief. I answer to a 5-person board, which one of them just left. He's also on the fire district board, Rusty Westover. So it takes a little community like ourselves. You'll see that several people sit on several boards. With that, we're all here about what APS is going to affect. Our Joseph City Fire District probably is one of the entities that is going to affect the least, just because when APS built their power plant, they basically decided to do a fire brigade at their facility and cover their own fire. As the years progressed down, they needed a mutual aid service, which we wrote a contract with. which works out to about $25,000 a year in a contract for mutual aid service. Plus, they put about $10,000 into training and in-kind services, which $30,000 or $35,000 is a lot, considering our whole budget is about $184,000. How did it affect us otherwise? I would say our biggest effect is in our volunteers. Since I became chief, and then since 2008, 2016 really present, when they started talking about shutting down Unit 2 and Unit 4, we've lost about 17 members that has affected us one way or the other. 6 of those since Unit 2 has closed, and 5 more will be affected at the 5 more will be affected following the closure of the plant. Sorry, I get emotional when I speak.
It's okay, totally fine. Take your time.
But more importantly, Commissioner, I want to talk to you about how APS, as they close, and our future, and we know our future is in renewable energy. And I have met with 3 renewable energies in the last 60 days, and 2 of them were solar, and 1 of them was a biomethane company. Commissioner, as you guys go through and set your permits, I ask that you put some regulations on our companies. And to speak frankly, the companies that I'm talking about basically are going to lease land instead of own that land. When they lease that land, that property is already not in our fire district. Them property owners do not want these companies to join our fire district because they do not want the regulations and the extra tax. These companies that are starting the Half Knife Project and the Obed Meadow Project, I do believe that they will never join our fire district, and the renewable gas transport that is pumping gas into our pipeline that runs through town also will not join our fire district. That leaves the expense, the training, all on our people in Joseph City. Commissioner, thank you once again, and do you have any questions?
Well, Chief, thank you very much for your heartfelt comments, and please know that this is something that I personally will take into consideration in regards, and just thankful that you're very passionate. You could tell right away you're passionate about the job that you do and the service and the safety that you provide to Joe City. So I just want to thank you for your service and your leadership as well too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Gary Hansen from Joseph City Irrigation District.
Once again, we're so thankful for you coming to be here with us as we go forward with what's going to happen to our small community and things that are going on. Can't hit that.
Yeah, it's a little sensitive.
But I'm here to discuss what's going to happen with the Joseph City Irrigation Company. As Kat talked about, in 1876, there were 4 companies of women, men, and children that were sent down into this area to colonize it. And out of all those, only one those companies survived, and that is what is present-day Joseph City. The settlement arrived on, as Kat said, March 24th, 1876. My source said that it was 2 days later that the first field was plowed. And he had the same remarks there. They wondered kind of what they got themselves into looking at that soil and where they came from. A dam in the river was hastily constructed, and ditches were quickly made to carry the water from the river to their prepared fields. This was the start of the Joseph City Irrigation Company almost 150 years ago. Over the years, 9 dams were constructed before one was finally built that survived the floods. One person described the river and dam building thus: by the wild stream with off-choked with mud, with log and brush to stem the force, here a dozen embattled farmers stood and turned a river from its course. Water that came from the river was usually clean and clear in the spring and winter months, but turned to a raging red, muddy water during the summer months. Much of the clean water originated from snow melt and artesian springs located upstream from the dam. Later, 2 wells were drilled to provide clean water throughout the growing season. When Unit 1 of the Cholla Power Plant of Arizona Public Service, APS, went into service in 1962, a large portion of the original water that was provided by JC, Joseph City Irrigation Company, to fill the lake that was there. As APS continued to expand its electric generating capacity at the Cholla Power Plant, more and more water was required to turn the steam turbines. In the late 70s and early 80s, farmers in the area complained that their water was getting more alkali as a result of the increased pumping by APS. An agreement was reached, and APS brought water rights from several of the local farmers, along with the non-expansion area, which included no new well drilling for irrigation water within a 10-mile radius of the power plant. This resulted in less acres of farmland being irrigated. Due to pumping by APS, artesian springs east of the dam dried up, stopped flowing, as well as there's an old bed meadow that Rusty was talking about. They used to run natural springs. Those all dried up, and now it's just big cracks in the ground where that used to be. Another meadow farther to the west also is starting to dry up some of those springs on the east side of that meadow as well, due to the pumping. An analysis of aerial imagery in 1937 revealed that Joseph City had 1,872 acres being irrigated. In the year 1959, just before APS came in with their first unit, 2,006 acres were being irrigated. In 2007, there were only 407 acres being irrigated. No significant change in irrigation has occurred since 2007. Joseph City has approximately the same amount of acres being irrigated today as in 2007. This shows that the agricultural background that has changed in Joseph City due to the water needs of APS. In 2007, Joseph City Irrigation Company was approached by APS to work up an agreement where APS could utilize some of Joseph City Irrigation Company's water rights, and in return APS would drill a new well, put in a pipeline to carry the irrigation water through a large portion of the irrigation system, provide electricity to run the wells, and maintain the pumps at Penzance, which is east of here, where those wells are. When APS closes the power plant, all water rights that they obtained during this agreement will be returned to the Joseph City Irrigation Company, and all expenses of running the pump at Penzance also will be returned to the company. What this means to the Joseph City Irrigation Company, in an analysis done by Boyce Hunt, he looked at the 3-year average of what the costs were from 2019 to 2021. And what that means is, over that 3-year average, each year $38,801.67 would then become the irrigation company's responsibility to keep those wells going. He went further and looked at a 5-year average, and that would be $35,590. This would be split over, there's 85 shareholders in the company with 1,514 shares. So that's would be split over them. In conclusion, the Joseph City Irrigation Company would like to continue to partner with APS in the following areas. Find a way to somehow repurpose the power plant so that it will continue to provide economic benefits to the community and the Joseph City Irrigation Company. To ask APS to continue to provide electricity and well maintenance at the Penzance location to help. And 3, through the years that Joseph City Irrigation Company has worked with APS, they have provided legal counsel and times and help us to make sure that we're doing things legally, and they have helped us with that. We would like to ask them to continue to help us as we go through this time frame of where many things are going to be happening. Water rights are going to be turned back to the local area. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Gary, on your comments, and I noted down your request.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Larry Bushman, small business owner, Chamber of Commerce. While he is coming up, I want to introduce Commissioner Jim O'Connor with us. And Jim, would you like to take the mic? And if you have any opening remarks?
Good evening, fellow Arizonans. My forgiveness, please, for late arrival. My planning didn't work out so well. I'm not used to 4 or 5 hour commutes, so thank you for your indulgence.
Hello, my name is Larry Bushman. I am representing the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm also a small business owner. Thank you, Commissioner O'Connor and Commissioner Tovar, for making the trip here and listening to us as citizens and as entity members. I'd also like to thank the community for their support and their participation in these events. I'd also like to thank ASU and their involvement they've had with providing us with information, with meetings, to kind of point us in the right direction. Also Navajo County and their participation in those meetings, and APS for their participation in those meetings and for their great involvement in the community over the last 6 decades. Cholla Power Plant came to Joe City at a very critical time. The power plant provided economic relief and growth, and as a result, Joe City has been fortunate to have economic stability since that time. However, this has also created an interesting challenge. Because of the revenue and tax base that APS has provided, we have been able to build and create a fantastic school district. We have great facilities in vocation, have an outstanding auditorium that we're in right now. We have great sports facilities, and we have been able to endure many economic recessions. And really, for the size of our town, we have done quite well. So how are we going to be able to survive or even sustain when APS leaves? How can we replace the loss of revenue and taxes? This fear has been consuming this area for the past few years. We've had meetings, we've cussed and discussed. Emotions have ran high and apathy has grown. Very valuable members of the community have left. Business plans and residential plans have been put on hold, and businesses have closed due to the lack of confidence in the economy. The economic effects of the plant closing started as soon as the news broke of a possible plant closure due to the Regional Haze Act that was passed in 2010. We are confident that APS has explored multiple avenues to meet EPA regulations, improve efficiency, and prolong the plant operation. But now the closure of Cholla appears to be inevitable. However, we've also seen many great members of our community make the choice to stay and have been looking to and find or provide other sources of income. Businesses have been created, and surprisingly enough, people have moved back into this area, even with the overall dismal view of the future. There is no doubt that APS closing will hurt the economy. It will create an economic void that, if we are not careful, we may not recover from. One of the negative side effects of having a community dependent upon one major source of income is that when that source is taken away, the community can be crippled and may go into an economic paralysis or long-term poverty. We are also worried about the inflation and utility rates going up when incomes may be stagnant or decrease. We recently sent out a survey to businesses asking what they project the APS closure will have on their business. 57.2% reported that they expect a 10 to 20% decrease in revenue in the first year, and only 14% project a less than 10% decrease in revenue after 5 years, while the other 86% expect a decrease from 10 to over 25%. But surprisingly, 71.4% stated that they are not willing to relocate their business. Most businesses are aware that their revenue may decrease, and many have been taking precautions to absorb that hit. Many have withheld improvements to their business, such as equipment upgrades, building expansion, and not hiring more employees, which also influences the economy. Then there are the companies that will be impacted directly, such as the subcontractors that work out the plant, and Salt Rivers Material Group. Salt Rivers Material Group produces 140,000 tons of fly ash each year that is used in the Arizona market, and that loss of fly ash will affect construction and concrete costs for consumers. Cholla plant closure will also impact surrounding areas as well. According to a 2017 Real AZ economic impact study, it estimates that 520 jobs and $68.2 million in employee compensation will be lost in Navajo County due to coal mining and power generation shutdown of the 3 coal power plants within the area. I said at the beginning that APS provide economic stability, which we are grateful for. But we, as a community, have the opportunity to cultivate economic growth and development during this transitional period. We need our businesses, whether new or established, big or small, to succeed. Businesses need to be able to improve so that they can provide a good income to their employees and expand their business and expand our employee base. We need to be able to attract new businesses and corporations to our area that will also be invested in the community. We need to address the reason why Joe City is not desirable, such as internet, infrastructure, and lack of housing. We do have great resources and assets. We have those here that we need to capitalize on. The freeway and the railroad are close and accessible. We're on Route 66, and we have a very unique surrounding geographical area. And of course, we have that dam water that we hear so much about. APS facilities can provide a great location and resources for future businesses. We hope that those options are being explored as well. One thing is for certain. Joseph City will change when the plant closes. It will impact us economically, but there's no reason why we can't rise above it and succeed. Joseph City has been able to produce a diverse and successful workforce. With that workforce and a combined effort, we can promote and grow businesses and grow the business community, advocate with and for business interests and resources, and encourage and empower future generations that will help our city here, and our economy will bounce back and the community will prosper. We ask that the ACC be mindful of our resources and our assets and our community with future decisions. And we also ask that future companies that may come into this area will be able to benefit our tax base. And we also plead that you be willing to include us in those decisions in whatever way that we can put in input. That's all I have. Thank you. And do you have any questions?
Larry, out of curiosity, what is your small business?
I run an automotive repair shop.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
Next, we have Darren Hansen, citizen.
Thank you, commissioners, for making it. Glad you were able to make it, Commissioner O'Connor. The wind probably blew you back, I'm sure. We blame everything on that. My name is Darren Hansen. I'm also known as the Leatherman of Joseph City, multi-purpose, wear a lot of hats, just like a lot of the guys in this community do, and gals. I'm here to talk to you guys about the repurposing of the power plant and the resources to help mitigate and of the lost valuation, economic vitality, and the immediate community and the discussed future possibilities. But first, I would like to acknowledge the past. APS has been very good to us, as they've talked about. My grandmother wrote in one of her journals, she was kind of a historian here, that APS was a valued citizen here of this community, which I thought was kind of peculiar that she'd put that in there, because she would always write about everything else. But that was one of her valued citizens. Without them, we would not have this wonderful auditorium, like it's been mentioned. Because of APS, our school campuses are some of the best in the state, especially for a town as small as ours. They have provided good paying jobs for many families and have greatly contributed to our little community. We are very sad to see them go. But with the change comes opportunities for new ideas. I have a few to share with you tonight. Our little committee got together and we got this up. So right now, the current average load of Northern Arizona APS territory, not including the reservation, is about 100 megawatts, which doesn't sound like a lot, but at peak times it triples that load to 296. Estimating that the population growth over the next 5 years directly correlates, percentage-wise, to the load demand. For example, Snowflake is expected to nearly triple to 30,000 people in the next 2 years. That's according to Google. So there is a growing need and demand for reliable and a constant energy supply, and we want to be part of that to help generate that energy. Some of the ideas that we've come up with as a committee. The first one was from Wärtsilä engines. I don't know if you've heard of these before, but they actually drive cargo ships around for over 100 years. These machines come ready to operate at 18 megawatts per machine, and at about $12 million per machine. And that's about $1 million per megawatt to build, which is very economical. That's a third of the cost of a gas plant, which usually comes in at $2.5 million a megawatt to build. That cost includes the engine, the generator, the cooling system, the SCR, which is the environmental scrubbers, and the emission control systems. It includes everything except the connection to the control system, etc. Connection to the switch. Okay. It includes everything except the connection to the switchyard, which APS already has at Cholla, and it needs a building to house it in. They consume less than 1 gallon of water per day, which is phenomenal. They can go from a cold start to full load in about 3 minutes. They are multi-fuel, operating on diesel, natural gas, hydrogen, kerosene, basically anything that can burn. They can currently run, at this time right now, they're at 60% hydrogen with a 40% natural gas base mixture blend, and by 2025, they will run on 100% hydrogen, which will meet our zero carbon goal that most of us want. There are other companies who also make these as similar machines. The Wärtsilä is just one of them. And that was one that had been proven around. The technology has been around for 100 years with these cargo ships. In order to help facilitate the fuel of these things, a solar field and electrolysis plant could be installed within the physical footprint of Cholla. Hydrogen would be generated during the excess solar hours of the day and burned in the non-solar hours of the peak time in the evening. There would be some advantages to having the isolated solar island instead of hooking it up to the grid. Generation that is detached from the grid is not subject to the NERC, FERC, and the WECCC regulations. So it would likely be the cheapest solar APS has. In short, the site becomes an energy storage facility via the hydrogen gas developed through electrolysis from the solar island, which would make that, I think, would be a very viable option. The next option that we discussed is the SMRs, the small modular reactors that are nuclear. NewScale and GE both have SMRs in the works. GE has my preference with the BWR X3. It is a 290 net megawatt nuclear reactor, which is the same size of the Unit 3 coal plant that we have there now. It is able to ramp from 20% all the way to 100% load, which is huge also because we're connected to the solar grid and we're able to drop that load down, which has not been done before in the past with nuclear. So you're able to facilitate the renewable energies that are coming in. With a life expectancy of 60 years, construction cost is about $850 million, assuming no infrastructure currently exists. Since Cholla has water systems, switchyard, and transportation in place, there would be some reductions in the cost. Breaking that $850 million down over its useful life, the numbers work out to about $6 a megawatt hour. The SMR would employ 100 to 150 people. Compare that to the battery facility, which, as McMicken, it costs $2.4 million for 4 megawatt hours once a day. Assuming a useful life of 60 years, which is extremely generous, it works out to about $30 a megawatt hour. And then McMicken exploded and was torn down and decommissioned anyways. Because at that time, we hurt some firefighters and some other things. APS McMicken facility exploded, injured firefighter a couple years ago. SRP just had a battery facility catch fire and melt down a couple days ago as well. And it is still smoldering. And I'm not here to bash on that stuff. I'm just saying this might be a better alternative. APS is currently renting 45 megawatts of diesel generators for about $8 million. That's just to rent them. And the reason they rent them is so they can facilitate down in the valley when it gets hot, the peak load. And they've got to have 45 megawatts because we're starting to drop below the capacitance load. And so they rent these 45 megawatts to get that taken care of. That does not include the fuel cost to operate them. And then there are the emissions, which are worse than a coal plant. Those diesel generators are temporary power, so they have very little regulations about the exhaust. They are worse than most semis on the road, since their exhaust is bad. These generators must be rotated around the fleet to a new site each year to prevent air permit violations. The point is, Arizona needs the megawatts, and APS will go as far as to rent and run these diesel generators to try and meet the demand. But there are much better options out there, especially if APS would consider purchasing and running Unit 4 to the end of Cholla's life. That's 400 megawatts just sitting around that could be used instead of those 45 megawatts. Right now, coal is about a fifth the cost of natural gas, and fuel costs for power generation get passed directly to us, the consumers. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There are many great ideas out there. The railroad tracks that are south of the plant bring other great possibilities. The spur that connects to the plant to the railroad is a very valuable asset that we do not want to see lost. In conclusion, I would like to thank all the people on this committee that got these great ideas together. They put a lot of thought and time into this project. I wasn't going to do this, but it happens. We believe in these ideas, and we hope to have a seat at the table when these decisions are made. I believe in the people of Joe City. I believe that our future is as bright as we make it. Thank you, commissioners, for your time and listening to us, and Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, Commissioner O'Connor.
Aaron, sorry for the first
Yes.
name. I didn't get your last name.
Hanson.
Hanson,
Hanson.
SEN.
SE.
Yes, sir.
Would you be good enough to either enter that in what we call a docket applications, commissioners access?
Yes,
those
sir.
ideas, unless your group feels they're
No, they would be
proprietary.
happy to do that.
But we'd like to be able to have discussions with some of the power associations.
Okay, that would be great.
Okay, thank you.
Darren, I'll have my assistant, Aaron, our policy advisor, get with you, and so we can make sure that we can get that information in the docket.
That may be different.
No, we can handle that, I'm sure.
Thank you. Thank you. If you'll indulge me for just a moment, and I just want to apologize for starting the meeting. I know we were running a little bit late, but I totally spaced in regards to opening up this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance and a prayer. And I was reminded of that from Chief in regards to how you would always have Brian say the opening prayer. So if you would indulge me, if we can do the Pledge of Allegiance, and if we have someone in the audience that would like to take Brian's place and say the prayer for us, I think it would be greatly appreciated. And I'm not sure outside, logistic-wise, where's the flag at, but if you could point me in that direction, that would be great. But if we could all stand right now for the Pledge of Allegiance. Assuming it's this way, right? Oh, he's going to find a flag. Do we have a volunteer to say the prayer? Oh, I think you guys are all pointing at someone, and I can't see. Awesome. School board member, what is your name? Arston Blake. Okay, right after our Pledge of Allegiance, once our flag comes out, if you can say a wonderful prayer for us for this evening. I pledge allegiance
Our dear Heavenly Father, as we come before thee in this meeting with the commissioners of Arizona, that we'll be able to receive the things that we hear, that we'll be able to present the things that we have to say, that we'll be able to do what is pleasing to thee for this community, for the state, for power plants, and all those things that we're discussing. Heavenly Father, we're grateful to thee, and we know that ultimately everything comes from thee. We're grateful for thy Son and the sacrifice of many people in this community and surrounding communities for the wonderful things that we have. Help us to take those things and to continue to advocate for the things that we need, to help each other, and to help all those that we come in contact with. Again, we're grateful for this opportunity, and we know that all things come from thee. Please continue to bless us as we do the best that we can. In the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Thank you for the wonderful prayer. I do want to announce some dignitaries in the room. We have Mayor Spence Udall from the city of St. John's. He came to visit us today. We'll be out in his neck of the woods tomorrow. So let's give a round of applause for Mayor Udall. We also have former Arizona Corporation Commissioner Chris Mays. Amanda Orman, thank you for joining us. We also have the Hopi Chairman, Timothy Nobongyong Oma. I'm sorry if I messed up your name, but if, thank you for joining us. And Chairman, if you would like to come up and say a few words.
Honorable Commissioner Tovar and Honorable Commissioner O'Connor. I would like to respectfully start by thanking the awesome community of Joseph City and their community members for hosting tonight's roundtable and for the awesome welcome that you gave to all of us for that. And I also want to thank you all for making the trip out here to visit with stakeholders in this particular region. I do want to start by acknowledging the local tribal community leaders for their comments, and it is emotional and it's real. I can say that from the Hopi tribe. First of all, my name is Timothy Navangayama. I do have the honor of serving as the chairman of the Hopi tribe. And as many of, as you know, and I'm not sure how many of the audience members know, but I say it's real because recently there was another power plant that had closed, the Navajo Generating Station. And hearing the comments and concerns, it resonates with myself also. Because you all know, and we testified to this before, that the Hopi economic consequences from the loss of the NGS closures revenues was up to 90% of our general fund budget. And so as I hear these, it really brings my concern to what the testimonies are and the comments that they're sharing with you tonight. Hopi's is severely constrained in new economic opportunities to replace lost coal revenue. The geographic constraints include fuel costs, severe housing constraints, and for us, you know, our local economy is basically the closest one is in Flagstaff. So when we hear about a lot of the options that's being shared here for you, we do agree that Joseph City Power Plant site offers near and other alternatives for the town in order to prosper. We're also stakeholders because we're only about an hour and a half away from here, so we do have, you know, that connection to this. Joseph City site offers a unique location itself as it sits right off the I-40 corridor. And so I think that with that I-40 traffic interchange, it does have that unique setting that should be considered by the Corporation Commission as it moves forward with its transition. So I just really want to let you all know that Hopi supports the regional collaboration on the facility and site repurposing planning and goals to produce the best possible economic result for the area. Again, I really do want to emphasize that I'm hearing the comments and the concerns of everybody that has had an opportunity to comment to you today, and I just want to remind you the impacts are real. We're living the fallout of it right now. It's our reality. So I would ask that this comment time that you have with the local community and those communities that are stakeholders to this particular power plant truly be taken into consideration. I hear the resiliency of those leaders that have spoken and the community members, and we have taken that same position. I do the same thing here as I walk through our community. I look at, you know, these individuals. I heard the children laughing. We still hear them laughing. This is a real community. This real community is going to be impacted by the changes that are happening today. Again, I just want to emphasize these concerns are real. We're living proof of that. It is our reality. Let's make sure that we're hearing the words that are being brought to you today, Commissioners Tovar and O'Connor. And I really don't have too much to comment on besides offering that support to the local community and the stakeholders. So I do want to thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak and address the commission here this evening. And again, to Joseph City, thank you for having us here this evening.
Thank you, Chairman. We're going to move now to those that have filled out the white form. And in case you haven't filled one out, please know you have plenty of opportunity to fill those out as well too. I'll first go. Our first one that was received was Richard Learma. If you can come up to the microphone. And then next in queue would be Jess Edmondson.
Commissioners Anna Tovar and Jim O'Connor. I'm a business agent for the Boilermakers Union. I started my apprenticeship around 22 years ago. Started coming here to work the outages and stuff like that. I represent probably over 400 members of the Boilermakers Union. That number used to be around 550. But with the closures, you know what I mean, it has dwindled down because of, you mean the work has gotten more scarce and stuff like that. I sit on a policy task force for the low impacted communities and stuff like that, which, I mean, it's a big think tank. I mean, trying to come up with different solutions to. Oh, yeah, sorry about that. I sit on the policy task force, you mean, to try to come up with different solutions to try to repurpose the facility over there. We are for transitioning hydrogens, you know what I mean, carbon capture, stuff like that. I mean, we know that we're going to have to transition into those technologies and stuff like that. But I think it's a little too soon to transition into those technologies. I mean, they're shutting these plants down. They're putting a lot of wind and solar, and there's not a lot of work in the wind and solar. You mean once they build them, there's no maintenance work. With these coal plants, you know what I mean, it puts a lot of people to work. I mean, I have Boilermakers that are sitting in the audience right now that, I mean, they're on the outage out here right now. The night shift, they're actually working, and they're working 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, you know what I mean, and bringing a good livelihood for their families and stuff like that. You know what I mean, it's impacting us big time. You know what I mean, so we're going to have to figure it out. With environmental controls over the years, you know what I mean, they started out with bag houses, you know what I mean, to clean up the fly ash and stuff like that. They had precipitators that also do the same type of stuff, you know what I mean, clean up the fly ash. Then they started installing scrubbers to clean up the NOx and, you know what I mean, the bad gas and stuff. I mean, so environmental controls have been able to clean up some of the exhaust coming out of the stack and stuff like that. There are SCRs to help further clean the exhaust that come out of them stacks. With carbon capture, you know what I mean, that technology, it's probably going to be one of the next big things. We would like to see maybe APS look into some carbon capture. I mean, maybe keep them plants open for a little bit longer until that we can transition to hydrogen or some newer type of technology, like the one guy was saying with the nuclear. I know the technology. I mean, we've been doing a lot of research on the different technologies. We're looking into transitioning and stuff like that. You know what I mean, but I think it's a little too soon to be shutting a lot of these plants down. You know what I mean, it seems like the community here is for the plant to stay open. I was on the open meetings for the Randall community for the Globe expansion. That community was against the expansion. It sounds like this community here is for the power plant, for the coal power plants to stay open. You know what I mean? And we're for the coal power plants to stay open. That's what I'd like to leave with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Jess Edmondson, and then next in queue, Jennifer Westover.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming, everybody from Joseph City. I am also a Boilermaker. I'm a supervisor at the plant for the Boilermakers. So right now we're in an outage. We come to this outages in the spring and the fall when power isn't so needed and we can bring them down and do repairs. We have Boilermakers from Tuba City, Page, New Mexico. So our footprint in our community is large because we're kind of like the firefighters for power plants. If something goes down, they call us, we come running and we fix them. We also build ships and other things, but these power plants are the bulk of our income in the field. I don't envy you guys. Right now, you guys are challenged. Natural gas prices in Europe went to $32 a million BTU today. They hit $7.26 a million BTU in the United States. We no longer live in an isolated island of natural gas. We're going to be dealing in a global market as long as this Russia-Ukraine conflict goes on, and or Europe doesn't want to be beholden to Russia for their gas. I don't see natural gas coming down to the levels that these price levels were set to the customer. So I don't envy what you guys have to look at here in the next 2 or 3 months, but by what prices I'm seeing, there's going to be some heavy inflationary energy prices for the consumer. So I would like to just not necessarily ask you a question, but make a statement. With the potential of the Glen Canyon Dam, which is 1,320 megawatts, dead pooling this summer potentially, do you have replacement? With the potential of the Hoover Dam, dead pooling in the next several years, which provides 2,080 megawatts of power, do we have replacement? With the fact that lithium batteries are not getting developed in the pattern that should be, even Elon Musk says he can't build a battery for a semi-truck that's effective. We've heard about batteries that have blown up. We've heard that this technology isn't quite there. So with natural gas spiking, with batteries not being available, with inflationary happening across the society, are the American people ready for their power bills to triple? I don't think that that's going to be very tenable to the economy that we have right now. So if you guys are looking forward to what these contingency plans are, I would very much like you guys to be concerned about it, because Plan A for California didn't work, Plan A for Texas didn't work. They're both incurring energy crises right now. The difference is if we had a blackout like Texas had a couple winters ago in Arizona during the summer when we need the power, it's not going to be hundreds dead, it's going to be thousands dead. So with all these kind of developing factors that are coming into your guys' realm, I hope that there's a plan and that there's consideration to bridge the gap for the solar and wind by using these coal-fired power plants. I can tell you, for $30 million, we'll put 4 back together and we'll make it a reliable unit. You can't do that. You're not going to find a better way to save the consumer than to keep these on and bridge this gap until the technologies are real. Right now, there is not a real technology. You guys aren't talking about pump storage as battery power. You're not talking about these things that are actually real. So I hope that your Plan A has a contingency with a Plan B, because by this summer, you guys are going to be looking at what that's going to take to provide power to the consumers in Arizona at an affordable rate. Thank you for coming. We appreciate the fact that you guys are here to listen to us, and barring any questions, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Jess.
Thank you.
Jess, can you have your members stand?
Yeah, Boilermaker, if you're here, please stand.
Boilermakers, thank you for all your hard work that you do day in and day out. Thank you. Next, we have Jennifer Westover, and in queue, okay, Ruth Hansen.
Thank you, Commissioner. Sorry, I'm not Jennifer, and she had to take some grandbabies home, so.
That is totally fine.
I wasn't planning on speaking tonight. She was going to speak about some other things, and I'll let her take care of that at a later time.
Okay.
But I want to thank everybody that has commented tonight on things. Really, really appreciate it. Jeff, you took a lot of words right out of my mouth tonight, and I am really concerned. I do work at the power plant, and it is going to affect our area a lot. The other thing I'm concerned about is they say that they don't need our generation, our power. But as soon as we come down on the tube leak or some malfunction on some equipment, then they're needing us right back up as soon as possible. Say, we need your power. For upper management, then it's tough for them to plan long-term too, like for coal inventory, and they try to project a year or two out. And they say they don't need us much, but we're running out of coal by November, roughly. So we're having to cut down production for at least a month out of the last 2 years. And so I'm just concerned that they are shutting these places down too soon, that they don't have other things in place yet. I know hydrogen is probably a good option, but I don't think that they're there yet. Need more technology. I just hope that everybody in the state, you commissioners and everybody that's higher up are looking at these different options, hoping that we can keep our electric rates down. Try to keep these power plants open a little longer until we can come up with something that's more secure. At this time, that's about all I can have. I'm just speaking off the top of my mind, so thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. And for the record on the video, can you state your name?
Kenny Westover.
Kenny Westover. Thank you, Kenny. Next, we have Ruth Hansen, and on deck, we have Hayden Hendricks.
Thank you so much for hearing.
Yeah, it's a little sensitive.
Yes,
huh?
it is, isn't it? Thank you so much for hearing our comments and our concerns. Our community is grateful for your concern in helping us transition as APS leaves. We appreciate the support of this company and your support in assisting with the loss we will be experiencing. We, of course, would love to see another business move into the existing structure that would help generate jobs, revenue, and other attractions to the area. Our community also wants to be part of the green energy opportunities that will stimulate more electricity, increase revenue to our community, and reduce the cost of electricity. As residents of Joseph City, one of our concerns is the reduction of energy and increase of energy costs that will occur when APS continues to close its doors. Many resident landowners in Joseph City would like to be part of the green energy projects, including solar, and have access to transmission lines and megawatts of electricity. Many of our resident homeowners would enjoy having solar panels placed on roofs, carports, pavilions, gazebos, or pergolas built with solar panels added to decrease electrical costs. Our community members would like APS to assist in this endeavor and help pay for the panels and the cost of the structures. APS in return would reap the reward of extra electrical production that the homeowners didn't utilize. Please help resident landowners access transmission lines and availability of the megawatts of electricity needed to build solar facilities. In return, the landowners who live in this area will more abundantly stimulate the economy of the surrounding area instead of other communities. Also, assist citizens of Joseph City by providing solar panels and installation of the panels on individual residential housing for those who would like that. that's just kind of a request. I don't know how much it would cost, but I do know there's a lot of opportunity for subsidies that the government provides for those kind of things. But our community doesn't have the income. We're a very low income community to even think about those things. And there are several residents who wouldn't like solar on their house, but there are a lot of members who would. And so we were going to ask for those opportunities to come our way in this community. So, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. We have Hayden Hendricks next, and on deck, Daniel Dietz.
I want to thank the ACC for having a docket open on this and being concerned hosting this town hall meeting. Especially thank you, commissioners, for being here. A lot of my concerns have been addressed by other members of the community. Water being a big part of that is vital to our community. So what I will speak to is some environmental concerns that I have. So when the power plant leaves, which as one community member already mentioned, it seems like it's inevitable. We'd like it to stay open, but it seems inevitable. They will not leave completely. There are things that get left behind. There's waste bottom ash ponds that are in the area, and those have potential of seeping into the groundwater and causing environmental harm for ranchers and farmers. It could possibly contaminate a water source. Already they've had to clean out a bottom ash pond that's south of the Cholla Power Plant, just north of the river, south of the railroad tracks. I don't know how much information is out there on that. And so my concern is why did they have to clean that out? Was it preventative? You know, in the case of them leaving, they weren't able to maintain it as well. So my request would be that APS continues to actively monitor these sites or other environmental hazards like overpumping of the water table, potential overpumping, and monitor the environmental effects that it may have had and mitigate those before they cause major issues. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, we have Daniel Dietz, and on deck, Anna Lee Henson.
Good evening. Thank you, Commissioner Tovar and Commissioner O'Connor, for coming and visiting with us today. When I heard Sunday that you guys were going to be here, I thought that was pretty incredible that you guys would take that kind of an interest in our community. We are a small community. I grew up in Phoenix, in the Mesa area. I know what it's like down there, how easy it can be to get consumed with larger picture things. So we really appreciate the fact that you guys came to hear our concerns. Excuse me. I don't have any prepared remarks. A lot of the things have already been addressed by other community members. The biggest thing that I would ask is that we consider replacement for APS that will give us economic stability. One of the things that has been brought to my attention, I work in law enforcement, and as part of that, as you've seen probably in the news, we experience major wildfires up here from a lack of thinning the forests. If you want to see environmental devastation, work one of those fires when you're watching people's homes get burned down, watching animals get burned alive, watching the devastation that happens to our forest. Biomass has been an option on the table, I know, at one point, and then it was discarded. I would ask that we consider that as an option, and among the many options. It would provide jobs in the forestry. If we're looking at the kind of growth that Navajo County is looking at, down in our southern area where our forest is primarily, those fires can have a devastating economic impact when homes are threatened. We could put people to work by going out and thinning the forests, and then we have a place for that to go. We already have the infrastructure there. Obviously, I would like to see the plant stay open. There's hardly any pollution coming out of that thing. If you look at those smokestacks when they're operating, it's steam. That's all it is. But if we're going to close, let's have something in place. that's going to sustain us economically. Navajo County, as a government, as a whole, is looking at a 10% decrease in tax revenue. When you zoom that in, as has been stated by Mr. Mills, Joseph City School District is looking at an 83% loss. That's huge. I live here because it's safe. My kids can go to school and not have to deal with some of the things that I grew up with. This community is awesome. I personally experienced some of the generosity from this community. So we'd ask that you guys, as you do your deliberations, please consider the different options and have something in place so that we're not completely devastated here. Thank you.
Thank you. Annalie Hansen. And next on deck, Spence Udall. Oh, I just saw that you didn't want to speak, but if you want to speak, come on up. Don't be shy. Don't be shy.
I'm sorry for the confusion.
No, it's my fault. It is my fault. I didn't see the big box that says, I do not want to speak. Sorry.
No. I just wanted to comment to thank you guys, because obviously the town means a lot to a lot of people. And I just want to add that, the original founders, they were my age, younger in fact, and they worked really hard, to build things. And I think the amount of people that have shown up today shows that our community, we're still willing to do our part and to work and to create something. And I have many peers that despite the, there's not a ton of jobs like you might get in the city, they still have moved back and they want to build families. And so I think there's a lot of heart here, I think you can tell. And we're willing to work and to do what we need to make it work. So thank you guys.
Thank you. And I'm so glad you spoke. Thank you for your heartfelt words. And next we have Spence Udall, and up on deck, Paul Addington. Good evening.
I'm Paul Addington, so not Spence. Thanks for coming, and this is my first town hall meeting ever, so that's pretty cool. I just got out of the Navy a little bit ago, and I was looking for a community to move to that was good and maybe had the potential to have some awesome jobs later in life. Right now I'm going to college, and this seemed like a really awesome community, and I moved here. Unfortunately, I found out the power plant might be closing. So I would like to do anything I can to keep that from happening. So the other suggestions would be nuclear and everything. But I really just wanted to make a comment that I think this community is awesome, and I really want to be a part of it. And I would like to see it thrive. That's it.
Thank you, Paul. First, thank you, Paul, for your service in the Navy. And I love your t-shirt. You haven't seen his t-shirt? It says, I love my awesome wife. I think I need to have my husband get that t-shirt. Thank you, Paul. We have Carson Flake. I think the mayor must have left, but we're going to catch him tomorrow night as well, too. So we'll hear from him tomorrow night. Are you? Oh, well, come on in. Come on up. It's hard to see because half of you I can see faces and half are dark. So I was never an actress, so please forgive me. It's bright light.
I really don't want to take up too much time. I do appreciate being called a dignitary. Yes. If anybody filmed that, would you send it to me? So
we'll send you a copy of that.
Yeah, I want to show my kids that I'm important. They need to learn.
You are important.
I did feel it important to show up here just simply to lend our support from the city of St. John's to the folks of Joseph City, because we fight a common fight. 50 years ago, we never thought we'd be in this position, and it's very difficult when all of a sudden your major employer leaves. And that's why it's so important that you guys have come up here, because it's pretty easy for these big companies to come up and kind of leave and to push these smaller rural communities to the side. And without an advocate and a voice that you guys can give us, that's probably what the outcome will be. So thank you for coming up, and thank you for your support.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
I'm Karsten Flake. Like a lot of people, I wear a couple of hats. I'm on the school board, and I'm also on the business part of it, trying to get some corporations and commissions and things into town so we can do things. I don't think you're going to find, and I could be wrong, but I'm guessing you're not going to find a single person that came here tonight that wants the power plant to close down. We like it here. We understand that it's a great place. A lot of people, I was one of those that stood up at the beginning. My family left and went to Snowflake and then came back. I have another brother that lives here. We're a small community that loves the community we're in. We love the power plant being here. We don't want it to leave. If there's a way to do something with it, leave it the way it is for all we're concerned. It seems feasible. It seems like the logical thing to do. I am by no means a genius in any way, but when they're having blackouts and brownouts and all sorts of stuff, I lived in the Philippines for 2 years. They can't get enough power because they can't get enough people to make power. We don't have that problem here, so let's use what we have.
Thank you. I did have two more, but I did notice the big box that says I don't want to speak. So just want to make sure we had John Newman, David Britton. Just want to make sure if you want to talk, please know that the floor is open if you wish to come as well too. Right now, we'll open up the microphone. If those that didn't have the opportunity or chance to fill out the public comment form, I'm going to open up the mic up in front for anyone that would like to give a comment. All I ask is for you just to state your name, and of course, if you're from Joe City as well too. But I'll leave that open for a couple of minutes because I know we've had great comments, great suggestions, and really want to give ample opportunity for you to give comment. I know you've taken time away from your evening, and please know that Commissioner O'Connor and I are here as long as you want us, and we're deeply here to hear from each and every one of you if you want to come up to the microphone and speak.
Thank you, ma'am. David Bittner. I'm a native Arizona. Lived here all my 60-plus years. Want to, first of all, thank you for coming tonight and providing the opportunity for folks to come up here and represent themselves and their opinions. I think what you've heard here tonight, a lot of folks have represented themselves and their groups and such, and some of their special interests and things they believe in. But what you're seeing back here are folks that really want to live here. They want to raise their families here, many, many generations, but they want to work here. They want to continue that lifestyle and make every generation better and better and better. That power plant over there has done that for them. And we really like to see that power plant stay open. Thank you. These folks here don't want a handout, ma'am. They want to work. And they want to work. They want to see their children work. They want to see their children prosper. That's the bottom line. So please do your part. I know that as an owner-operator has the ultimate choice, but you as the ACC have a lot of influence on keeping the place alive. So please do what you can. We'd surely appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay, don't be shy if you would like to come up. If you've been inspired by someone or there's an urge to share anything, please feel free to come up to the microphone.
Make a fool of myself. My name is Jody Balda. I'm sister of Kat Hansen, who spoke at the beginning. But I was just sitting there, back there, thinking about all the history that my family has with the power plant. My grandpa worked there. 2 of my uncles worked there. My brother-in-law worked there. My dad worked there. My brother worked there. And I have two brothers that are linemen, and they were inspired to become that because of APS and the opportunity that it provided them. And I just, my dad came here from Europe and didn't have much going for him, and him and my mom were pretty much in poverty for the first several years of their marriage. And the power plant provided my dad the opportunity to provide for his 6 kids and for my mom, and pretty much to realize the American dream. So I am grateful for the power plant. Some things that come to my mind is, as they're getting ready to leave, is I hope that they're grateful for the community that has made their prosperity possible. And that they consider us as they make their plans to leave, that this community opened their doors to them, and we're grateful for them, but also we provided them the workers and the water and the land to do what they've been able to accomplish. And I hope that they are considerate of the people that they are leaving behind when they do this. And I think that the power plant can be used for other things. I realize that a lot of the world is trying to go green right now, but I also realize that in the vigorous desire to go green, they aren't even looking at the things that aren't really green about going green. There is damage to wildlife and irreversible damage to the soil that cannot be replenished or returned back to its normal because of solar. Birds are dying in huge amounts. They don't know what to do with these windmills when they retire. They bury them, and they don't know what to do with the solar panels either when they retire. And they become just as damaging, if not more damaging, than these power plants. Our air is clean here, and we have a power plant here, and it's crystal clear in the mornings and beautiful in the evenings, and there isn't the pollution that everyone's screaming about. But I just hope that as we go forward that we look at the realization and the facts of everything and consider those facts when these decisions are being made, and also the livelihoods that are being destroyed in the process.
Thank you, Jody. You did a wonderful job. Thank you.
Evening,
Good
Albert Putzig. I'm Director of Pozzolan Manufacturing at Salt River Materials Group. We are the fly ash marketing company that has partnered with APS and numerous other utilities in the Southwest. We are directly owned by the Salt River Maricopa Pima Indian community, and have been since the 80s. And before that, we were owned by the Phoenix Cement Company, whose cement plant helped build the Glen Canyon Dam. And since 1973, we have had an ash marketing agreement with power plant here in Joseph City with APS. And that agreement has grown and grown, and until Unit 2 closed, we were marketing over 250,000 tons of ash out of the plant. That served the building industry within the state of Arizona and neighboring states. The closure of the plant has a direct impact on the economy of the Arizona area and the larger Southwest region. not only that, but also the local communities. And I'll speak to it on a personal level. Coal has paid my bills since I was a kid. My dad was the main purchasing negotiator for P&M at the San Juan generating station. And seeing plants close like that and the devastation that can cause in local communities, we can think of solutions to replace the holes in the communities that those cause, both financial, emotional, and other impacts. But the fact remains, when we stare reality in the face, we're in rural areas. Companies like Amazon and others don't look at these areas all that much. So, speaking to what the Boilermaker said earlier, yeah, you could spend $30 million to get Unit 4 up and running, but I could spend $0 to keep 1 and 3 running. Show me the return on investment there versus, getting a solar plant up and running for $1 billion. So, continuing to wear my personal hat on this one and not my company hat, look at the bigger picture. This plant is supplied by coal from Peabody Coal Company, El Segundo, outside of Grants. El Segundo also provides coal to units 1 and 2 at Springerville, and it also provides about 50% of whatever coal is burned down at Apache. Its base load comes from this station and from Springerville. When this station closes, it is my personal opinion that that plant will close, and it will bring down units 1 and 2 at Springerville and cause a major disruption down at Apache. I don't believe that's a pipe dream. I think that's a personal fact. So the repercussions are not felt just here in Joe City. They're felt all up and down I-40, all the way to Grants and beyond. It's a tragedy tearing down these stations. We built these things in the 80s. They still run great. Let them run the way they're designed. They're not designed to run in swing fashion mode. I'm a process engineer. I've worked at other pyrometallurgical facilities. I've worked at the copper smelter in Miami, Arizona. That plant does not like to run in swing mode, from bouncing from low load up to high load in a matter of 10 hours or whatever. That station, that plant, they run most effectively in base load. This phony baloney stuff about how solar is so much cheaper, that's because we have artificially killed the economies of coal-fired generating so they can't stand on the same economic level of solar. You allow them to run, this station's down for 58 days right now. We used to have a saying at the copper smelter in Miami, it's 100 million whether you're running or not. If you're not running, the unit price of copper coming out of that plant is 100 million for a pound of copper. But if it's running, it's less than 30 cents. So you do the math here. I mean, you ask the plant manager here if he can run flat out all the time, guarantee you he says that the price is a hell of a lot cheaper than the cost of new build solar or new build wind. Let them run. These folks will prove to you that this station can run a hell of a lot more economically than any other solution if it can run the way it is designed to run. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Thank you, Albert.
Told myself I wasn't going to talk here a bit. I was impressed by somebody. By the way, I'm 5 generations to Arizona, and there's 3 more behind me, or ahead of me.
And your name, sir?
Ross Rogers.
Ross Rogers.
I don't have anything to do with the plant. I'm not an engineer. I don't know how I ended up here. My wife, she's got a couple of beautiful homes in Flagstaff and in Mesa. We're staying right here because of the people. And I just want to say, I'm a Christian. I believe God put that coal on earth for a reason. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Russ.
My name is, can you hear me? I don't know.
Yes, yes.
All right, great. My name is Jason Hendricks. I live here in Joseph City. Want to start off by saying I am a fan of renewable energy. There's solar panels on the back of my house. I enjoy the energy they create. I think that's great. And I think that we should explore every avenue to make electricity in the smartest, cheapest way we can, and makes the most economic sense. Here's my concern. I watch what happens in California. I watch rolling blackouts, people who don't have electricity because they've made fossil fuels a villain, right? And that's fine if we're going to move away from fossil fuels. It seems like it would make sense to take a look at it and, have the replacement already in place and working and up and coming before we cut off the fossil fuels, right? And I've listened to all these people talk here and whatever. And I guess what I have to say is I didn't graduate from college. I don't have a degree. Didn't even graduate from high school with my class. And it just seems like it would make sense for all the people with the degrees and the smart people up there making the decisions to take a look at what's going on, the cost of production and all that kind of stuff. And why don't we keep what we have working until we have the replacement viable? That's the only thing that I would have to say. Is that we want to move and transition somewhere, that's great. But just like what was just said, if you go to the gas station and you got premium and you got regular unleaded, and I can go just far on the regular unleaded, I appreciate filling up at the unleaded price. If you're going to force me to fill up an unleaded, I don't think that's a smart decision or very fair to the rest of us, right? So that's all I have to say. I just think we ought to have the replacement working before we pull the other offline. And let's go with what the most cost-effective and affordable as we transfer from one to the other.
Thank you, Jason. Any last-minute takers? We do.
All right, Commissioner Tovar, you got to listen to me again.
It's okay.
Commissioner O'Connor, thank you for coming. I spoke earlier. That hat is now off. I'm just simply a ratepayer. I'm not wearing any hats for this speech. As a ratepayer, I am concerned. I understand green energy, and I realize that all of us here that support APS and this coal plant support being clean. I grew up here. My father worked there. He was part of the original crew, the startup crew when the plant opened. I have seen the plant change. I've seen it change for the better. I've seen it clean up. I just don't want you to get cross thinking that we don't care about the environment. I think everybody here's on that same page. My concern as a ratepayer is green energy is not cheap by any means. I know right now we pay for it. We pay for it through the back door. We pay for it through our taxes. They give all the money to the green energy to get them going. Eventually, that money will run out. As a ratepayer, we'll be there left with whatever's left. So I just hope that is always in the forefront of your minds, because I know that is really your job, is you're worried about the ratepayers. And in 20 years, the lifespan of a solar panel, when all these grants and everything start running out, we're going to be the ones left to foot the bill. And so, like I said, everything you do, we all want to be green, but green costs a lot of money. And right now, that true cost isn't up front. It's a hidden cost, and we're not going to know until the money runs out. So just please keep that in mind for the ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty, we're going to move now into closing remarks. I'll hand it over to Commissioner O'Connor.
Thank you, Commissioner Tovar, and all of you who are still in attendance this evening. It strikes me in this brief introduction I've had with your community and those who have spoken on behalf of this great community. Kind of wish I lived here myself, to tell you the truth. I want to share with you when Commissioner Tovar and I were seated in January of last year on your corporation commission. Our chairwoman, Leah Marquez Peterson, initiated a new tradition. One old American wouldn't think this would have to be a new tradition, but for the first time in many, many years, perhaps decades, the commission had dropped prayer before the open meetings, but we initiated that. And we have had an incredibly successful 16 months under Leah Marquez Peterson's leadership and the fine service of the other four of us that complement her on your commission, doing the people's business, which is in largest part protecting ratepayers. We do a lot of that praying because it's needed. In this case, you're dealing with very heavy considerations, very complex. We deal with those every month in our open meetings, on average about 35 to 40 cases a month. So we tend to be very busy people and more well-read every day. These are complicated issues, and only with God's help will we get to the right answer. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Connor. Nice to remember the very moving prayer that you gave at the very beginning when we were sworn in as well, too. So it truly does help. I just want to thank each and every one of you for coming out this evening. It was shared with me on one of the papers that came is we had over 200 in attendance. I believe it was 228 was the head count that came in this evening. I want to take this moment right now to thank our Arizona Corporation staff that came and traveled and are part of our team day in and day out. As you know, the commission covers many avenues in regards to not only electricity, water, I mean, you name it, railroad. We have a lot of different divisions, and of course we are short-staffed as well too, but our staff members are extremely passionate. They give it their all every single day. They are overworked and in my opinion underpaid, and just truly know that they are working every single day in making sure that we're able as commissioners to do our jobs effectively, but also they're very passionate about serving communities like yours, in making sure that we have the proper information and the guidance from their leadership as well and their expertise. So we have the ACC staff in the back of the room. I could see a couple, but I want them to step forward and raise their hands so that we can give them a round of applause. Come on, Renelle and Eli. I would also like to thank my team, Aaron Fallhaber and Jennifer Benally. They are an amazing part of my team. In a case you need to reach out to us, please know that they'll probably be the first contact that you have. But again, please reach out to my team or even Commissioner O'Connor's team. We would love to hear from you if you have any follow-up as well too. Also would like to thank Will Green, the policy advisor to Commissioner Kennedy that came and gave the statement. He also will take back all the notes that he's taken today and deliver them to Commissioner Kennedy as well too. Just wanted to let you know again that our town hall was recorded and will be available at the Corporation Commission website if anyone wants to see it or wants to share it with a neighbor, friend, community member as well too. That'll be available fairly quickly. Just give us probably at least 24 to 48 hours to get that up on our ACC.gov website. Also, if you know of anyone that would like to provide public comment but wasn't able to attend this evening, we can file their comments as commissioners in the docket. We also have an upcoming town hall tomorrow as well too. We'll have many virtual town halls as well too, and we'll get all the information out. So in case those that couldn't attend, or if you want to attend another one, our virtual town hall would be a great complement in making sure that if you have any additional comments to have. Again, we're more than happy to help and facilitate the comments, suggestions that you have. That is super important to us. I learned so much this evening from each and every one of you that shared your story, your suggestions, your comments. I too, Commissioner O'Connor, think that we can live up here as well too, right? It's a great place. I felt very welcomed into your community. And I would just say I'm honored and blessed to be here with you this evening and to learn from you. I could tell immediately that you're very passionate about not only the history of Joe City, but also where you want to see it in the future as well too, for all the kids, your grandkids, and I'm thankful for all the kids that hung in there this long. Thank you and kudos to each and all the kids. Raise your hand if you're still here, kiddos. I see some of you guys that are still awake. Yes, all right. You can share with your teacher that you went to an important meeting yesterday when you go to school tomorrow, but thank you. And also a special thanks to the Joe City that helped facilitate and get us here and allowing us to have this community town hall here with you today in such an amazing facility as well too. And a special shout out to Chris Mays as well too for connecting us as well too. Thank you so much for your leadership. Again, guys, we're consider this just our beginning of being here at the town hall. We'll be here for you via phone, via email, virtual as well too, and please invite us back out because we would love to come back to Joe City to visit with you again. But again, thank you for your time, and we'll call it a night. Thank you.